Welcome to a special CK podcast. Today's special guest, a mentor, a friend, an entrepreneur who is very great, and although he'll be very humble about it, Jack Crawford is one of the best we have here in Sacramento and the Bay Area. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It's been a long time in the works. I've been trying to get you on, but I know you're very, very busy. We're gonna go over your journey, how this all happened, how you became one of the partners at Impact Venture Capital, how you became a CPA after Arizona State, and just talk about your spiritual life as well with your family. I mean, you're a family man. Just all those things. First and foremost, what did you do after you graduated from Arizona State?
Yeah, so I decided, I think early on, both my parents were entrepreneurs in their own ways. And I think I decided early on that entrepreneurship was a way to kind of hire yourself. Instead of applying for a job, sort of create a company that could hire you. And so I thought I'd try and use the accounting background as just sort of core skill to get into, sort of understanding business a little bit more. And so I had 4 different companies where they were focused on technology, and I was able to sort of understand the business model and the financial aspects of building the company that enabled me to have some wins and some losses, candidly, and learn a lot with regard to sort of launching companies. So I went from graduating with a degree in accounting, getting a CPA, working for one of the the big accounting firms, to moonlighting while I was working at the accounting firm to launch one of the first internet service providers in Sacramento.
I saw that,
and so it was early on, and we were talking about this thing called the internet, and people were sort of confused as to what www was. We were talking to car dealerships, and we were talking to people who were distributing newsletters, and they were worried about print and postage costs. So they were connecting to the internet just to send one message a month, not recognizing the power that that email could be. So it was a great experience, and I had I had an e-commerce company after that, and I had a company that was focused on transitioning content from the newspapers, the printed newspaper, to online. And then the 4th one was actually doing that same kind of thing for the college and university environment. So some wins and some losses in there. Nothing sort of game changing from the standpoint of extraordinary success. I just I think it was Winston Churchill, success is defined as moving from sort of failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. There were some small scale wins and some losses in there, but I just took that learning experience and decided, wow, I love working with early stage technology companies. There's a value creation.
Technology.
Yeah. And I think there's a value creation opportunity that can happen in a very short period of time. What if I could work with a bunch of these entrepreneurs and actually help them? And so that's how I made my way into venture capital.
Well, you were Entrepreneur of the Year in 2000. What was that honor like?
Yeah, it was recognition for the progress that we had made at our company. I was on a nationally syndicated television show called The Money Hunt that was put out in 160 markets. It was kind of a round robin sort of competition for entrepreneurs across the country. And there was a venture conference that happened here. So I was the entrepreneur that was selected from this region. And then I went on TV to compete against 10 other entrepreneurs, kind of in a Shark Tank like environment. Awesome. And just got some great exposure. I think more importantly, it was, collaborating with our team to build an interesting company more than the personal recognition, and sort of recognizing that, wow, we were, creating a company that was pretty interesting. So that was a fun experience.
So for the people who don't know what Impact Venture Capital is, can you kind of give us a surface level introduction to it?
Sure. So oftentimes when you come up with an idea for a new company and you're trying to get it off the ground, you approach maybe a bank for some financing, some resources, and they say, oh, well, you haven't been in business for a couple of years, you have no revenues, how can we fund you? And so oftentimes those entrepreneurs are looking for other sources of capital that are willing to take a significantly higher risk. And so those entrepreneurs turn to the venture capital community, and they basically say, hey, are you open to funding our company? Well, our venture fund exclusively focuses on technology, as most firms do. We're looking at how artificial intelligence is being applied.
We'll get into that. Yeah.
Okay. And we're also investing alongside of Fortune 500 companies. So these something called a corporate venture group. Most people are familiar with Google Ventures or Intel Capital, but there's a lot of other corporations that also actively invest. So we're investing alongside of those. And then we host large scale tech conferences, including the one here at the Golden One Center that draws 1,100 investors and entrepreneurs, and really kind of brings together market innovators, meaning startup companies, and market leaders, meaning these Fortune 500 companies, brings them together, and we hope to be the thought leader in sort of changing some industries by bringing together these major corporations with startups. And along the way, we're investing and mentoring and providing introductions to customers and capital sources and sometimes management talent to help build these young companies.
Watch your back, Jack. Is one of the things that you guys have on only your robotic AI companies, right? Talk about artificial intelligence for the people that are not very educated, because it's kind of like the internet, right? Where you were like, man, is this going to work? Or even social media. Like now it's like you have to be on social media to have a functional business in so many regards.
Yeah.
But AI, how will it be applied to our future, to our present? I want to get into the whole sports aspect of it as well, but just kind of give us a surface level idea of what we should expect.
Sure. Well, so just generally, when you think about artificial intelligence, what's happened is the world is better connected, right? There's internet connectivity almost everywhere on the planet. And so you have a world that is better connected. And at the same time, you have massive amounts of data that are being uploaded onto the internet and stored, right? So now you have a globally connected world, a globally connected world with massive amounts of information. And the next phase is, well, how do we make decisions based on the information that we now have readily available in this sort of, global archive, if you will. And artificial intelligence is about pattern recognition. The way that the brain works is that we know that if we sit down on this couch that it's going to hold us up, so we sit down. It's just a pattern that our brain develops, right? Our faces look familiar to each other because we know each other, right? It's all about pattern recognition. All artificial intelligence is basically using computers to understand those patterns. And now at this moment in time, with a globally connected world and with massive amounts of content being uploaded, video, audio, pictures, graphics, all this type of stuff available, there's a greater opportunity for pattern recognition and business decisions than ever before. Wow. So what you have is a new wave of technology and innovation. So in the early days of the internet, there was a lot of people that thought, oh, that's kind of cool. It'll be used for just this or just this, right? It'll just be email or it'll just be web surfing. Now we understand that it's not just email and web surfing. The internet effectively is impacting every business, every person's life in a variety of ways. I think AI is just sort of scratching the surface. We're thinking about it as, oh, well, it will impact autonomous vehicles because it will allow
taxis.
Yeah.
I remember that, like flying taxis.
It will allow these cars to recognize whether they're flying or driving, effectively patterns to understand sort of, whether they should stop in 600 feet or 60 feet based on, the resolution of the cameras and the patterns of things that they're seeing. The robotics company that you mentioned is a company called Advanced Farm in Davis that picks strawberries. So it understands where the center of the strawberry is, which strawberries are ripe, picks it off of the vine, and then puts it in a basket, arguably faster than a human hand. So they're doing some interesting things. So these patterns are creating opportunities for technology.
Should people be afraid of that? Should they fear AI? Like, man, it's gonna take my job. I'm sure that's what a lot of people are like. Well, I'm not gonna have a job because we're gonna have all these computers and all this technology, right?
Yeah, I think for certain, there's going to be some AI technologies that effectively eliminate the challenging human tasks, if you will. And so I think the answer is for us to not, as humans, sort of keep the hard work. I think it's for us to understand more about technology, for us to get involved in science and technology and engineering, for us to understand that, manual labor is tough. And if we have an option to use a balance of our brain and our brawn, that's probably a better sort of more fulfilling life. And so there's without a doubt, AI is going to replace some jobs, and it's going to do them better than humans can do them. And the question is, how can we repurpose those people into jobs that are focused on innovation and find them new opportunities to contribute to society?
That's very interesting. Yeah. I love basketball. You love basketball. I'm always complaining about referees sometimes giving X player this call and then Y player that call. They're not consistent. My question is, will we ever see robots as referees on the basketball court who will be consistently great at what they do in terms of black and white? So if a guy bumps you, it's a foul at the 1 minute mark of the first quarter and in the last 20 seconds of the fourth quarter. Can we get the same consistent call every single time.
Yeah, how do we do that? The question in my mind is, how do we do that without delaying the game? Right now, it's happening where we have replay, and it just sort of delays the game,
Yeah.
and I think disrupts the game, disrupts the fan experience, and all that kind of stuff. To use another sport, in tennis, they're starting to actually really dial in. If you think about the resolution on whether a ball was in or out, I mean, it is amazing, right? It's the combination of computer technology with an official without any delay. Right. And so I think that's kind of interesting so how fast are those things adopted in a way that doesn't delay the game or disrupt the game or disrupt fan engagement? I'm not sure. When I think about AI in sports and basketball in particular, I start thinking about, wow, what if the coach actually had patterns of, when a defense is in a certain set or when a particular lineup is in, or do we get healthcare information? What if you had real-time access to the patterns of what, X person's heart rate is as they're coming up the court? Is it going to that person who's kind of gassed right now, or is it going to
Would the coach have like a headset? That way he's receiving all this information.
I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know where it's going to go. I could see coach with one coach with an iPad and instructing another coach who's monitoring the game. Where does it go? I mean, you start seeing some of the stuff in the NFL, right? So you start seeing sort of real time things being provided in the NFL. So there's the idea of sort of technology, and in particular artificial intelligence. Sports is a really interesting area.
It's fascinating. Yeah. Who is Jack Crawford on a day-to-day basis? Because you're this smart, super techie guy, but who is Jack Crawford outside of all this?
Oh, I don't know. I think I have a lot to learn. So I think I certainly have things to contribute in some meetings and some settings, but I still feel like I have a lot to learn. I feel like, let's see, on a day-to-day, my wife and I've been married for 22 years, so I'm excited about the marriage that I have. I have 3 kids, and so I do a lot of coaching. My dad worked really hard, went to law school at night. He wasn't around a lot when I was growing up, and I thought I wanted to change that dynamic. And so I've really worked hard to think about my allocation of time with my family. And I don't always do a great job, but I'm constantly thoughtful about maximizing the amount of time with my family. That means things like coaching flag football or playing golf or launching an entrepreneurs club with my kids, those kinds of things. And then, professionally, I'm involved with the Entrepreneurs Organization, a local group of, I think it's 50 or 60 CEOs in the Sacramento area that are really playing a thought leadership role in building the Sacramento ecosystem. I'm the founder of a philanthropic organization called Social Venture Partners, which has mobilized a group of active philanthropists that are just doing an incredible job of contributing time and money in a strategic way to improve education in Sacramento. And then as one of the founding general partners of Impact Venture Capital, we have an office in the Bay Area. So I have a partner in the Bay Area, and then I'm the partner out here in Sacramento. We're kind of traveling around California and throughout the Western United States, finding, great technology companies to invest in, and then, kind of mobilizing family offices and corporate venture groups and other people thinking about innovation. So that's how I'm spending most of my time. The last thing that I would mention is I've done a fair amount of research over the last 10 years on a concept that I've been referring to as strategic planning for life.
Right.
And this is the idea of sort of taking strategic planning skills that we oftentimes fine-tune in the business world and sort of applying them to our personal lives, right? And saying, all right, well, if we're going to have key performance indicators, or if we're going to manage, in a sense, these metrics in the business world and have annual plans and sort of look at how the business is operating compared to what our plan was, why don't we apply those same skills to our life? And so I really like this idea of sort of figuring out life's purpose, figuring out a roadmap for what we want to achieve, and then figuring out ways to measure how we're doing against that roadmap. So I've developed a half-baked set of tools that I have been...
It's in the works.
It's in the works.
Yeah.
And that I've been testing ideas off of you and others, right, in my network, people that I respect and that I get energy and inspiration from. And I've been trying to share that with the idea of crowdsourcing what they're doing in their lives, because maybe it will inform something I should be doing in mine. And so I've had a lot of fun kind of working on that project as well.
Fitness is something big for you.
Yeah.
You've won medals, and was it the Ironman? Was it the Ironman challenge?
I think all you have to do is finish. All you have to do is finish. I haven't won one of those races. My goal was to finish, but I've done 2 Ironman events. I've done a double century bike ride, 200-mile bike ride in a day. I've done a 50-mile ultra marathon. So I've done some hard things. I've done some hard things, but I've never
how does
close
that
to
affect
first
your
place.
life, though? I mean, how do you use that to your advantage on a day-to-day, with your business, with your family? Because I'm sure it gives you more energy to go coach flag football and basketball and just all these sports, right?
Yeah. I think I'd say a couple things. One, I've always felt like if my body is in better shape, then my brain works better.
Yes.
And so there's this idea of, how could you be in the top 1% of sort of physical fitness? Because maybe that will allow your brain to operate in a more enlightened way. And so I need to work to sort of stay at a high level from a fitness standpoint, but I have been thoughtful about it and worked hard on that. My wife is a fitness fanatic. She's a gym rat, so she's doing group exercise classes all the time, and so that helps to encourage our whole family to think about.
She push you a lot?
Culture. She's in great shape. No, she's in great shape. She's a fitness fanatic. 6 days a week of working out is not enough for her. She's just always ready to work out. So that's great. That helps to establish a culture of fitness in our family. But with regard to the races, I think for me, I knew that I wasn't fast enough, or had the time to sort of compete at a high level, or athletic enough, candidly, to compete at a high level to be able to win one of those races. But the idea of 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride, and then run a marathon, that just seemed impossible, right? Doing an Ironman event seemed impossible.
Insane.
And then I thought, if you could break it down into smaller
pattern recognition,
goals,
there it is.
you could, maybe you could chip away and sort of, start to check some of these boxes and help to navigate toward a finish line. So I was thrilled to finish. Trying to do things that are impossible is something that has driven me. I like to prove that things aren't impossible.
I want to be respectful of your time, but I can't let you go without me asking you about the Sacramento Kings, your beloved team.
Yeah.
If you could categorize their season in one word, what would it be?
Oh, it's been challenging. It's been challenging to say the least. First it started with, the 0-5 start, which was a little bit different. You sort of thinking about picking up from last season and the pace of play and sort of these young athletic. So that was a challenge. The injuries have been a challenge. I think the integration of a new coach and this player group has taken some time to sort of settle in. They certainly had their just when they seem like they're getting some momentum. Rashawn was playing so well and adding some, I think, some really unique value to already a nucleus of some incredibly young and athletic people. De'Aaron just drives everything right. The decisions that he makes and the pace at which he plays with and his assertiveness in going to the hoop is just, shapes the identity of the Kings. And so when he's playing as well as he's playing right now, we got to figure out the other pieces to support him with. So I just feel like, I'm not the basketball expert that you are, but I just feel like, if we could get a little bit bigger, a little bit more physical, and I establish an identity of toughness. I'm not saying we have to be, the former Detroit Pistons, right? We don't have to be that mean and gritty, but I do think we need an identity of toughness. I think that Rashawn brought that, and I felt like we were a different team when he's on the court. I feel like at times Harry Giles brings that. There's been other things missing from his game. Buddy has been a little bit up and down with regard to shooting percentage. I actually don't think it's Buddy. I think it's spacing. Yes. I think sometimes he's got more space and those shots go in. When they tighten up, when all you have to do to beat the Kings is stop Buddy Hield, it becomes pretty easy, right? So double teamed and short space. So anyway, I've really enjoyed the season. I'm very excited about where, what we're building. I'm an optimistic guy, so I had big ideas on what we could potentially do this season. So I'm a little disheartened, but I'm, unwavering as a fan, and I'm hopeful that we can, go on that 6-8 game win streak, and just sort of put it all together for a couple weeks, right?
So every Tuesday at 6 p.m. I have a live show where fans can call in, and one of the questions that stood out to me was, "Hey Leo, if you were assigned to be GM, they fired Vlade and they made you GM, what would be the first thing that you would do?" I had my response to that. I want to hear your response to that. What would you do if you were the new GM tomorrow? Or after the deadline, because it's become unfair, So after the deadline, on Friday.
Yeah, that's a tough question, because do you look at, are you going to end up putting yourself in a situation with a high salary to bogey that sacrifices other things, in the summer. Do you trade him now, right? We'll find out tomorrow what Vladdy's thinking about bogey. I love bogey.
Me too.
And so I just think he's a playmaker. He's a hustler. He brings a physical toughness. He's a shooter. He can get to the hoop. He can create his own shot. There's a lot of things that he can do well. So it would be tough for me to trade him. Who else do we trade? Do we just do we hold on and just sort of add a couple pieces through the draft, and do we try and build and sort of focus on next year now and sort of sacrifice this season, maybe end up at the lower echelon to get a higher draft pick?
Would you give up on Bagley?
I feel like he hasn't really gotten a fair shake yet. I know that when we look at what Luka's done, it's hard not to compare.
Don't say his name.
It's hard not to compare sort of the stats that he's putting in. But Bagley, has been banged up, and now's not the time to even think about trading him. You haven't even really given him a chance to show what he can do yet. His vertical leap, his second jump, as they call it, his athleticism, his energy. I mean, it's phenomenal, right? It's so fun to watch, and I think he's a king. My gut says that he's a king. He brings, and Rashawn is a king. That level of effort.
For sure is a king.
and Buddy is a king.
Yes.
And De'Aaron is our leader, right? And those guys, athleticism, smart. Just fired up about basketball, young. That is a nucleus that I think you can build around. And so I'm not really sure, who else we could actually get trade value for. I know Dedmon wants to go someplace else. If we can get some draft picks,
someone takes on that contract, I would be shocked.
We'd have to pay for some of it, I think, right? And so there have to be some financial.
And I love the guy as a person, great guy, but on the court, man, he's been really bad for the Kings. So, hey, Jack, thank you so much. That's Jack Crawford, y'all. Amazing human being. Thank you so much for coming on the show, spending some time with us. I know you have a busy day ahead of you. Again, if you guys could leave us a review on iTunes, share this video on IGTV or on YouTube. We'll see you guys on the next one.